But welcome to QB Talks. It's the August edition of QB Talks, and we are featuring a few of our top 100 award winners in a top 100 awards winners roundtable. My name is Gary DeHart. I am the host, and I am joined by really a powerful roundtable comprised of Murph, Diane Gilson, who is Insightful Accountant's 2022 ProAdvisor of the Year, Sherry Lee Mathers, who is Insightful Accountant's 2022 Top International ProAdvisor from the Americas, and Marjorie Adams, who is Insightful Accountant's Top 2022 Top QB Desktop Integrations ProAdvisor. A couple of housekeeping items. One, this does not offer CPE. If you think it should, or if you think that if you would like us offering CPE more frequently, please just put that in the chat. Let me know. Or if the chat's not working, put it in the Q&A panel. And then put any other questions you may have, put them in the Q&A. We may not get to them because we have a lot of questions that Murph's going to be firing off at our panelists, but we'll try to get to them at the end. But before we dive in, we do have to pay the bills. And so we'd like to say thanks to our sponsors. And I just realized I haven't put up my presentation yet here. Hold on. Murph, you're supposed to be calling me out if I don't have my presentation up. All right, we got it. Can you guys see that? Is that presentation showing, Murph?
I don't see it.
Okay. Let's see here. How about now? What do you see?
Just our faces.
Just your faces. All right. I may have it on the wrong screen. Multiple screens always gets me.
I was trying to record some videos this morning, and it's same thing with how it was just like not going. Had to restart about 5 times.
All right, almost there. Relax. I am a professional. Let me see here. And let's share probably have to hit that share my screen button, don't I?
I think so.
Here we go. All right, let's see what that does.
There you go.
We got it. And then let me get it into slideshow presentation mode. Is it going there?
Trick.
There we go. We good? Or did it go away just then?
You have to flip the screen. We see the display setting.
You're actually showing your
screen.
So you need to flip the screen you're showing because you're in the presenter mode.
Up top, if you hit display settings and then the drop down, you can say switch screen.
This is work professional development right here.
Yeah.
I don't see display settings. Sorry, folks.
Should be right at the very top.
Right above QB Talks. It should say display settings there. Right. Just to the right.
To the right of that.
There you go.
Yeah.
Oh.
Participants. Oh, you can see my screen.
Yeah. You missed display settings.
Where?
Right there. Click down.
Oh, that says participants.
No, it says display settings where you're at right now.
Right there. It says participants. I'm looking at it.
Yeah, it's probably you're seeing Zoom stuff and we're seeing your actual screen.
Oh yeah. All right. So
it's good enough. We can tell. It actually looks like when we're reading on paper, right? And down the side it says what's next, and up front it tells us what we got now. All
right. Sorry about that. I'm sure I can figure this out eventually, but y'all don't want to hear me watch me fumble through Zoom. So we're going to go with what we have here. So thanks to Rewind. Rewind is our series sponsor, and Rewind Backups protects the critical data which runs your firm and your clients' businesses. So online accounting software products don't automatically back up your transactions, which I think we all know that, and the files, if the files get deleted. So Rewind Backups is your undo button for your online accounting software, automatically saving and restoring the latest version of your books. So backups are available for QuickBooks Online, Shopify, Shopify Plus, GitHub, GIT Hub, Trello, Microsoft 365, and BigCommerce, and they have dozen or so other platforms currently in beta. And I do have to share a poll question here. This is a 4-part, so answer them real quickly for us, and then we can get on to our next sponsor and then on to the conversation. That should be showing. Hopefully it is. You guys see that?
Yes.
All right. I'm just going to pull it off the screen. We'll give about 10 or 15 seconds. Does anybody on our panel here use Rewind currently?
Me?
Yeah. How long have you used it?
Well, I'm grandfathered in, so it's been a while. I'm grandfathered into some good pricing, but yeah, no, I'd say at least 3 years.
Okay, great. Yeah, and then Diane, you and Marjorie both, I think both have said you're much more heavy desktop, right? So
Correct.
wouldn't be quite as needed for you. So, all right, I'm going to go ahead and close this out. So if you do want to participate in that poll, please do so. Otherwise, we're just going to go ahead and close it out. All right, thank you. Then our the other sponsor, our episode sponsor is Dext. And Dext in the last year, Dext has expanded its platform to include more products that align with their goals of becoming your full stop 360-degree bookkeeping solution. Dext Prepare is a simple way to bring all your paperwork like receipts, invoices, and bank statements together in a standardized digital format. Upload them, and Dext will extract that data you need and send it to your accounting software accurately. Dext Precision basically takes all the data from your clients or that your clients have fed into Xero or QuickBooks Online and alerts you of any discrepancies so that you know you're starting from a place of accuracy. It's loaded with features to improve insights, workflow, and more. And then finally, Dext Commerce automatically fetches your client's sales data from multiple e-commerce and point of sale platforms like Amazon, Shopify, Etsy, and Square, splits out transactions, fees, refunds, and reimbursements line by line and allocates the right taxes, whatever the region, all under one subscription. So we do have a poll question for Dext. I've got to share with you. Let me throw that up there. Oops, that's the wrong one. Here we go. And basically just asking, what are you interested in learning more about from Dext? Choices, product demonstration. I'd love a quick chat, content and checklist to help assess your tech stack, a webinar content, or if just nothing at this time, you can check that as well. We'll just leave that open for about 10 seconds and then roll on. Does anybody on here use Dext?
I was just going to tell you real quick though, we can see your notes, kind of like when you're on, when you're not on mute. I just wanted to give you that heads up.
Okay. Yeah. Thanks. Yeah. We'll be off the slides once the conversation starts. So.
Okay.
I've been using Dext since 2015.
Okay. Did you get a free Canon scanner when you signed up for Dext?
No,
I they were doing that then.
Yeah, no.
That was.
I think one point I got a little tablet or something there, but yeah, no.
Yeah. So you've seen a lot of change. They've changed a lot in that product.
Oh yes, tons.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll go ahead and close that out so we can get this thing rolling on. And let's see. So before we dive in, we do want to introduce each of our speakers. I have each one of you introduce yourself real briefly. We'll start with Diane, then we'll go to Sherry Lee, and then we'll go to Marjorie. And I am going to stop sharing my screen. Diane, it's you. What do you got?
Okay.
Tell us a
Hi.
little bit about you.
Well, if my understanding is you'd like just a little bit of background about the company. I started in 1994 after having been in banking for 13 years and public accounting 3 years before that. So we've been in business 28 years. And very shortly after I got started, I found that I really enjoyed working with folks in construction and found out that they needed job costing. So that's what we do, primarily construction, but some manufacturing and service industries with a heavy focus on job costing and using desktop.
All right. Sherry Lee.
Hi, I'm Sherry Lee Mathers with Balsam Way. I am located up here in British Columbia, Canada. So I started my business in 2009. I focus in craft breweries. So I've niched into that over the past few years, doing all sorts of other areas, but I attempted to get away from e-commerce and fell back into e-commerce with the pandemic with the craft breweries. So that the craft brewery is ready to drink and now some winery.
Is that all in Canada or do you do cross?
And specifically, I focus mainly just in British Columbia. So just in one, because we have the most difficult liquor laws and tax laws around it and reporting. So that's enough to keep me busy. Yeah.
And Marjorie, I failed to introduce your baby who was with you. So
Yeah.
there's actually two of the Adams family here with us. So tell us a little bit about your firm, Marjorie, and then we'll get rolling.
Sure. So 4Lane started, we focused heavily on conversion, so moving people from outside products into QuickBooks. We gave QuickBooks Enterprise that ERP feel because we do custom application development on top of it as well. So we can do those, little tweaks that we need to have happen. And never thought we would grow as big as we are now, 90 employees across 18 states, and mostly QuickBooks Enterprise, but we also do Acumatica and branching off into some other new products as well. So yeah,
Okay.
That's us.
Murph, how about you?
Well, I don't do anything anymore.
I know.
I strive to do as little as possible, but it seems like I wind up doing almost as much as I used to do. And for those of you who don't know what I do, well, I write about 14, maybe 16, maybe 20 articles a month for Gary. And otherwise, I take care of any and everything that falls under my purview of the top 100. And that's a lot. It's a lot to deal with from the day we start the process until the day we finish. And just about the time we finish, it's time to get started again. So I guess that's really kind of why I'm here.
Yeah, absolutely. And so on top 100, so we've got 3 of our award winners. We've got the mastermind behind kind of all the scoring system and everything. But so what we're going to do is kind of take not a deep dive, but a little bit of a dive into kind of businesses in general of our panelists, looking at the technology. How are you engaging with your clients, and what's your, are you focused in, or what do you have in CRM, time tracking, a little bit about the technology, how it's implemented, and just what your business looks like on a day-to-day. And I'm going to go ahead and go off camera, and Murph's going to take this over from here. Murph, give me a shout if you need me. I'll be here.
Yeah. And I'm going to kind of skip around a little. I'm not going to necessarily just start because I think sometimes it's better to just kind of get everybody's input. And while everybody had the opportunity to look at some of these questions that we had, and everybody has a little slightly different viewpoint, many of you have some things that are kind of common to each other, and where they are, I think it's better that we kind of talk back and forth. So I'm going to kind of pick on you that way. But Diane, you were one of the only individuals who told us that your tech stack really kind of included billing and AR apps. And I kind of found that interesting, but knowing the kind of people you deal with, construction, I can see why you might have some special billing apps involved. So why don't you tell us a little about those apps?
Well, I try to select that one, but I don't know that they're particularly apps. I do have people that use some outside products like Builder Trend or Co-Construct. And so those particular apps have some of their own billing products, but I don't really get in the middle of, the billing or AR on that side because they are the third-party apps. Generally, I'm training my clients how to use QuickBooks Desktop to track time and cost and to be able to push those things through on their invoices, depending upon whether they're fixed price jobs or time and material jobs. I mean, there's a lot of functionality right inside that desktop program. And of course, if they're proofing and balancing as they should, that can make their life pretty easy when it comes time to do that, the billings. And of course, incoming information in terms of accounts payable, if they get the customer and the job and the service item in place, or any one of the items in place on those, that makes tracking things pretty easy for them. So as far as outside apps, I don't generally recommend a whole bunch. If they want to use the other products, then we try to make sure that the outside product can deal with their desktop setup.
So do you have any specific construction related software that you prefer that works directly with desktop? Even in terms of timekeeping?
Well, timekeeping, there are a whole variety of things out there. Of course, there's QuickBooks Time available now. There's Busy, and people bring in, Co-Construct has some time collection, but time collection softwares are pretty plentiful out there. There's one called Minute 7, for instance, and we talk to different people and find out what the attributes are, and then if clients ask us for something, we can go ahead and direct them. It's one of the products that we've done some degree of interaction with the company and made sure that it looks like it's going to work for them.
Okay. All right. And Marjorie, I know that you work with time tracking some, and do you have some specific time trackers that you prefer?
I mean, we use a lot of different time tracking options. So we do a lot in field service management. So they have time tracking in there. It's not the best. If the client is open to having two apps, we'll recommend them do field service management with QuickBooks Time, because QuickBooks Time is better for timekeeping, right? The way that it flows in is better for job costing. We do work with Workforce Go in the Acumatica space. So they do some of the payroll and time tracking over there. I'm trying to think of, I know that this company was bought to, for sometimes our clients, I'll find it during this call, who they need to do, right, like thumbprint check-in. I don't know, Diane, if you have companies that do that as well, like and then probably in restaurant industries, we see this a lot as well. And then for us, for our internal practice, did you want me to talk about that too, or not?
Sure.
Quite still? I
mean, in terms of the timekeeping.
Yeah. So for us, for our internal practice, I mean, when you are in the consulting space, time cards are the worst, right? That's like, and everybody now tells us we shouldn't keep track of our time, but you have to a little bit, because it's kind of like inventory, right? You have quantity and you have value, or cost, and you have to have both to get to value. So in time tracking, we have to keep track of it still in the consulting space. So we use in Salesforce, we created our own because we were struggling with it so much. So I'd love to hear what everybody else is doing too. So basically what we do is we have like a task, and that task, let's say it's slotted for 2 hours. We say task starts Wednesday at 12. So it marks the calendar. It's connected to the calendar in Salesforce, blocks off 2 hours, and then connects to Outlook, blocks off 2 hours. And if the consultant ends up spending 3 hours doing this, they can expand it on their Outlook calendar and it'll update Salesforce. And then if they do nothing, like they expand it to 3 hours and they just leave it, it'll automatically submit the time card for them. So it's kind of a two-way sync between Outlook and Salesforce. But it's time getting people to put in time cards in our industry is super hard. I feel like to remember to keep track of your time.
Yeah, you know, and yet clearly that is the way that it's still going, because the last Intuit survey of ProAdvisors showed that 70% of ProAdvisors still are reliant upon time-based billing and invoicing. They haven't transitioned to any of these newer methodologies, despite all the hours and hours of training and preaching and teaching about all these alternative methods. They're still reliant upon time-based billing. So
we actually do value-based billing. So we do that, but you can't get away from the costing, right? So in order to figure out the cost, you still have to put that time card in.
It was value-based billing was only prevalent for certain kinds of things like basic QuickBooks setup, or just adding a new company or those kinds of things. But almost everything else was still time-based.
That's fascinating.
We do flat fee.
Yeah, we do flat fee.
It's a flat fee, but we still track time, and we just use QB time. And it's simply just so we can see if we've gone sideways, really sideways, and especially because I'm so heavily based on apps and working with the apps and that. So when you can see that you've squirreled down a hole and spent an hour and a half, in a support call trying to get something to work or reconnect, or there's a problem, that's just sort of like, okay, here's where we went. And now when we go to look next year and revise this, do we put more time in because they've added more apps and the apps, an app makes one change and suddenly everything doesn't work anymore. And you're going in and fixing it. So like, we're just using it for a guideline, but also so we can just see, what we're doing and where we're struggling.
And since we're talking about time and talking about billing, and naturally then time flows to payroll. And I'm going to go back to Diane a minute and ask her, Diane, are most of your clients using QuickBooks Payroll out of desktop?
I'd say probably 70% are, maybe
Okay.
75, somewhere in that vicinity. But yeah, the nice thing about desktop is you still have the payroll module. And so even if they're using, one of the other payroll services, we can set that module up in a way that they can still get their job costing done. There's a little more manual background work involved because they still need to mirror what's really going on with their outside payroll service. But assisted is really the way that we generally recommend assisted payroll to our clients, because it's just so integrated.
Okay. Well, I know that this may not really be right now as applicable to Sherry Lee as it might be to both you and Marjorie, but certainly the announcement that came out last week from Intuit about the changes pretty well started a uproar in that not only was there an issue of pricing, but Intuit, if you read the not even so fine, but pretty well almost bold print, started making it clear that their intent was to begin transitioning desktop users ultimately to QuickBooks Online Payroll, even though they had QuickBooks Desktop. And that it makes one wonder just how much longer QuickBooks Desktop payroll products will be around. You know, they eliminated the enhanced payroll for accountants this year. Now, you can still get it if you had a subscription, but there's no more subscriptions out there for new accountants. And so it's going to be, I think, quite an issue. And it makes you wonder whether that great integration that exists between desktop payroll and QuickBooks Desktop, how much longer that's going to work for just exactly what your practice is all about, job costing.
Well,
So-
and for many years, I didn't recommend QuickBooks Payroll. And then, you know, things started getting much better on that side. And I always recommended, I hope it's okay if I mention company names, but I always recommended Paychex because the reports were easy to read. We could use the payroll module and, you know, do the job costing. As long as people could get their time collected and in the time keeping system, then we would, so if push came to shove and my people needed job costing, we could help them transition into a totally different system. Unless the QBO payroll can come up with a way to let people assign their time by job and service item, you know, if we need to help people transition elsewhere, we will. We're all about, and I'm sure Marjorie and Sherry are the same thing, just all about what does the client need, what's going to help them run their businesses more effectively and more profitably.
And there certainly are a wealth of payroll opportunities now for reasonable prices that haven't been there before.
And some of them have other good size or other good benefit packages rolled in. They've got HR services and 401k and, you know, some things that right now are not even available. You know, people would have to go out and get on their own that aren't available through assisted. So in general, the reason I always liked assisted was because the payroll taxes are getting paid. And that's a place where company business owners can get themselves in a lot of deep trouble because they start borrowing from Uncle Sam and Aunt State, and the next thing you know, they're in deep trouble with it. So by having a payroll service that pays the payroll taxes on their behalf and does it accurately, you know, then that keeps life better for them. But you know, it doesn't have to be Intuit. So
I'm curious about everybody else's. I mean, up in Canada, our options for payroll, what seems to be lacking, because we all do some costing, is a really good integration that actually can put things so that we can get them properly to classes or to separate departments. So that for me up here is a big problem. Is the integrations are not being set up to map that way. So we end up having to go in and manually manipulate, if we're using an outside payroll service, manipulate the journal entry or manipulate the entry or create our own to get it so that we can cost it into the correct line items and classes. Because here, and it seems to be an issue, if we have, say I've got somebody who works in the brewery, but they also do a little bit of admin and then they bartend. They've got 3 different jobs. So just like you would have in construction and different service items, those items, and then to those different areas, whether it's a class or whatever, we can't get that split correctly. So that seems to be what I'm finding here is a real fail. And it's taking us manual time to do and fix and adjust.
is that in
Right.
desktop, Sherry?
Mm.
This is just getting into QuickBooks. Any payroll provider, pretty much.
But
Like we've got
she's
different
asking, is that for desktop or online?
for online to bring
Okay.
in all my clients. I'm 100% online, but just
Okay.
bringing in from any external payroll provider, not just QuickBooks Online, but if we used an outside payroll provider, that seems to be where it's falling for us.
One of the things that we find, so QuickBooks is amazing in its flexibility, but its flexibility makes it super difficult for third-party applications to capture a big part of the audience, right? Because you might use customer types for something that another company or another advisor recommends customer types to be used in a different way. Like in desktop, I talk about all the time, the fact that you can run a profit and loss by the ship via field is really weird, but you can, so you don't have to use it for ship via, you can use it for something else. And so for that reason, that's why we do customization, right? Is because and then also too, not only that, not only can your QuickBooks file be set up uniquely to what you need, then people have calculations that are different, right? Some people do it based on employee overhead. Some people do a percentage of revenue. Some people do a percentage of, like, you see so many, it's Tuesday and it's 4% this way and 2.5% that way, right? Like you just never know what people are going to come up with and how their brain works to make sure that things are allocated appropriately. So that's where, for us, why we invested so heavily in bringing a custom team in to build on top so we can automate those things. Because I agree, I've never even seen some of the major payroll providers, they say they do job costing integration, and I've never seen it in all my years. So,
Agree.
except for QuickBooks themselves.
It would be nice to get some of them really in a room with some knowledgeable people and actually explain to them what you mean by job costing, because I don't think they really ever understand it. They just really don't understand it. And they really don't even understand how QuickBooks does it in their payroll, at least desktop payroll. And and of course, I hate to say this, but QuickBooks doesn't really even understand it when it comes to their online payroll. So anyway, let me move on, and I'm going to ask Sherry to tell us a little about some of the things that are unique. This aspect of her business that she primarily deals with breweries, and she has a couple of apps that are fairly unique to that genre or niche. So why don't you tell us about your, is it Ecos?
So Ecos, yeah, there's 3 of them here that we tend to look at and use in Canada. There's a new one on the market, but Ecos it started as manufacturing, and like all apps these days, they're adding more and more and more. So it's about taking, so for me, like Marjorie said, I do a lot of customizing and tailoring it. So Ecos, the brewer will purchase or put a PO or purchase ingredients, and then that would push a journal entry to QuickBooks. Well, I customize and I turn that off so that I can use Dex, so that I can get the actual ingredients posted to inventory correctly and get the receipt in our QuickBooks. And that way we can ensure that we've got one streamlined system for costing. But so Ecos, there's now OlliOps, which I wish I could remember who they used to be. Brew Ninja, there's Beer 30. They're all manufacturing. So they're all essentially do the same of, let's take all your ingredients, put it in the tank, and it tells you. And because beer is food in Canada, we have to have traceability. So we have to have lot tracking, traceability, all those kind of things for manufacturing. It will then cost it and record all the temperatures, record everything that's happening when you move it from one to the other, to a finishing tank. Then when you decide to go from there and you're moving it to either cans or kegs or to a serving tank. So everything's got those whole job costing elements. So that's actually the beauty of it. And that's kind of what got me hooked the very first time I saw it, that suddenly, they moved in the phase from one tank to the other. And I saw in my QuickBooks file that suddenly, bulk beer, had changed. The numbers had changed. And you could see that. And you can see then when they sell. So then when it goes and it's packaged, all your packaging is then added to it as well. So your can cost, your label cost, every little piece goes into that. So then, here is the cost of your beer by can. And from there, then, it has its own module of, you can sell. So you can either sell to liquor stores. There's all the different levels that you can sell to. So you've got your different pricing. So those really nicely poured into QuickBooks. But again, they have to be finessed. And they've captured the majority of the market here in Canada. Because of that, and because of they've taken their reporting, and where we have to do reporting, each province has stuff to the liquor boards we have to report, because the way it works in Canada is if you're a craft brewery manufacturing, you have one customer only, and that is the liquor board. So even though you sell to all these restaurants and other places, they're not your customer. You are just a collection. You are an agent for the liquor board. So you have to report everything. So if you spill something, or if your product goes bad, something's happened, you have to report that all to the liquor board. You have to report literally every drop. So whether it's damaged, so that's the beauty of these softwares. But, so you can look on that side. But then they come in as a journal entry, or they come in, with invoicing and that. So it's then looking at all the systems and customizing them.
I think if
Very
we could,
interesting.
I was just going to say, if we could wave one magic wand to all ISV partners of Intuit, or all apps on top of Intuit, it would be no more journal entries, please.
Exactly. And it's amazing how many don't understand that, if I showed somebody the other day, I said, well, you're putting a journal entry. I said, but I can't do cash flow analysis.
Mm-mm.
I said, because it doesn't recognize a journal entry for cash flow. I said, there's all these, it messes up. So yeah, I totally agree with you.
Mm-hmm.
Did I answer? Am I still not?
Let me move to Marjorie just a minute. And Marjorie had the experience of being involved early on with a product that Intuit owned for a while called QuickBase. And she was actually quite noted for doing a lot of development work with QuickBase, and did a lot of application building. And she told me that she first worked on some of her own software, but has since kind of migrated. And so I'm going to let her tell us about her CRM and practice management tools that she migrated from QuickBase and what she's using now.
Yeah, so we still use QuickBase internally. We still use, so what is QuickBase? It's an online relational database. It's just, you can do whatever you want in there, basically. We still use it internally for things like our own, we use it for things like tracking our individual, what we call rocks, right? So it's our individual goals, the way we're contributing to the company as individual. We use it for our wiki, because wikis, like the wikis that exist out there as softwares, you have to understand HTML code to really be successful in using them. And I don't want to learn that. So it's very simple. And it's, the wiki is just organization and words in a document. We connect that also to our LMS, which is the video side of all of our processes that we do. But we used to use it for practice management, because I had this, I know that Intuit likes talking about apps to do everything. And then, QuickBooks Online is the end point. But when you go into apps, one of the reasons why people leave softwares like, in the ERP space is that they get very isolated. You've got access to time tracking, but that's all you see. You don't see anything else. In our space, we have a very high volume, right, of customers that come across our plate. And so we need access to what did they buy? We need to know what orders they have. We need to have access to what projects do they have open. We need to have access to what time cards they have open. And so I've always believed that I want my entire company functioning in one place as much as possible. And we could go into an Acumatica or a NetSuite and do this and pay a ton of money. We chose QuickBase originally because we could customize it so easily. And then we switched over to Salesforce a couple of years ago, so that we could, again, it's literally, it's everything. It manages our entire business except for then just simple data flows into QuickBooks, which allows us still to use QuickBooks as a $60 million company, right? So that's what we do, is keep it all in one spot. So I don't know how, and then that does connect to our web store, right? And our web store is what people talk about as customer portal. They could go log in there to see all their orders if they need to. So they can see everything that they've purchased over the years. Yeah, that's how we're set up internally. So it's custom.
And of course, that's becoming more and more common, and everybody wants a portal. And that probably should have been one of the things that we ask you all about is what kinds of requests are you getting about portals? Are you finding that more and more of your clients are interested in having portal access, especially they want a portal for their clients to be able to access and find out either what their payables are or to place orders, not necessarily a website, but a true integrated portal into the accounting system.
So we have both as an option. Truthfully, so whenever customers come to us and ask for customer portal, most of the time they're saying they need to have a place where a customer can go order, and that customer has to have a different price. And pretty much every web store allows you to do that. And so whenever people come to us and ask us to do something like that, we go web store first because of those reasons. Also, the hardest thing about customer portal, if you're not using something that the general public is used to using, is you have to train your audience on how to use your portal. And so if you, like Acumatica as an example, does have a customer portal section, but having to train all of their vendors, as an example, if they were gonna, or customers, they have vendor portal and customer portal, having to train them to go here and use the system, that is not something that is like data, we all use Amazon. I use it every day. Shamefully, unshamefully, I don't know. I'm Jeff's best friend over here. But we're used to using web stores. So we coach people to use that first before trying to go into anything else. How about you guys, Diane or Sherry?
We don't set up, I mean, if you're talking about portals, we don't do bookkeeping. Okay. We train people how to set their QuickBooks up properly, to do, get good reports and so on. If they're using a third-party software, then we try to stay out of the middle of that and count on the third-party software to do the training. I'm always happy to sit in on a collaboration call and make sure that everybody's talking the same language, because wherever things cross over, you have to make sure that the two systems can shake hands. But we haven't gone into, setting up portals other than our online training. And of course, when people buy our online training, then we use the Kajabi portal for that. We do our recording in Camtasia and that type of thing. But I don't think that's necessarily what Murph was asking about. So.
Well,
I'm a bit
let me interject. For example, one of the big construction softwares, and it may not be for smaller construction companies, but certainly larger construction companies. I've got one construction company left in my group of clients that I still keep that uses UDA construction. And UDA offers two portals, one for both what you think of as customers and one for vendors built into that product. Now, UDA also integrates with QuickBooks, either desktop or online, depending on which UDA you have. Either UDA Online integrates with QuickBooks Online, or UDA Server integrates with QuickBooks Desktop. But as Marjorie said, it takes some getting used to, because people are more apt to using web stores. But the problem with web stores is people can see an order, but they can't necessarily look at history. And a lot of people are getting where they want to look at all of their history, see what they ordered 3 years ago, et cetera, et cetera. And that's kind of the advantage of a portal, I would think. Now,
or their bookkeeper has to find all the missing invoices.
Yeah, maybe that's true. So, yeah, Sherry, you want to chime in?
Well, here specifically in the niche I work in, the main manufacturing softwares have sort of a portal built in already. And that's mainly because they're taking, you have everything you've just produced, and everything you've just produced, it's like, here's our available inventory. So I would say there's not a whole lot of, from the eco standpoint, there's not a whole lot of customers who actually log in to see available inventory and what they can order. It's more, I think, in this industry, it's managed by the sales team. So the sales team is going in to see, what's been blocked off, what's going where, what's going to be delivered. And when they go and do, their visits, that's when they can see, and they'll put the orders in. So both Ecos and OlliOps has that. But the big thing here, of which we're now on strike today, yesterday, I believe it started, rotating strikes here in British Columbia, is everything has to be ordered through the LDB. So if you're ordering from our central warehouse, you have to go in there, and that's where it's ordered. So we don't have a whole lot of portals to worry about. And if it is, it's built in the software. So we have the difference where you'll have large manufacturing craft breweries that, you know, are putting out the cans and distributing kegs. And then you have the smaller craft brewery sort of tasting rooms where, you know, there's just one person and they're just brewing to serve in their own tasting room.
Okay. Well, we've got about 8 minutes left, and what I want to do is give you all the opportunity to, you know, tell us anything else that you think is unique to your operation or unique to your skill set. Now, by that, what I mean is people are always interested in how people got to where they're at in terms of how did you make top 100? How did you make, you know, one of these categorical winners? And of course, how do you make ProAdvisor of the year? And, you know, there's a skill set and experience counts, of course, and training counts and all those kinds of things. But I know that you will each have a viewpoint on what it takes to get where you're at. And I want to give you the opportunity to just speak to the audience and perhaps share what you would. And I realize you weren't given any advance notice about this, but just share what you would about what, you know, you think people can do to reach for the stars, so to speak. So, Sherry, I'm going to let you start because, you know, it's not been that many years ago that I visited with you on the phone when you weren't even sure that you should be, you know, filling out an application.
Well, and I still at times think, how did this happen? You know, where I want to say one thing that prior to the webinar, as all three of us spoke, the one thing that I really got is all three of us are into customizing and tailoring and getting things so that our clients can use them, that there's no out-of-box solution. And each one of us seems to be going in and looking at it in different ways. And, you know, whether it's construction or you know, brewing and that, but taking and customizing, looking what's out there and then modifying it. That seems to be what I feel is a commonality between three of us. And what I feel that is you have to be curious. You have to be curious. You have to want to solve a problem. And if you can't find it like that, you got to be able to figure it out yourself or find something new. So for me, you know, in my industry now, especially, is a brewery isn't just, you know, a brewery. It's not one business. It's a manufacturer. It's a tap room, which is a restaurant. It's an online store. You know, there's food service. So, and we've got 4 to 5 different areas and self-distribution. So we're taking that 5 areas and some of these other breweries, I spoke with one in Ontario, they've actually got an event space where then they rent out the event space and they actually have concerts there as well. So it's, you know, businesses, concerts, and they're looking at each piece of the business has some specific need for software. So the manufacturing, we have to have tracing. The front of house, you know, the restaurant area, we have to be able to track, you know, hourly. We have to look at all these different things. The online store, we have to bring in. So it's all about trying to take all these individual systems and bring it into one area that the client can understand. And I think that seems to be the more at least in my world, the more apps try to develop to be an all-in-one tool, the less we can do it and the more we have to be curious and look and bring in other of our own skill sets.
Okay. Marjorie?
I mean, I'll add on to that. We say the people who do really well here get bored easily, right? That's what we say when people are applying for jobs for our team. So that's, you know, one of the, I would fail as a bookkeeper because I can't do the same thing every day. I need to have a continuous problem to solve. But I think that one of the things that really sets us apart, and I've talked about this before too, is that we share information, right? Like there is, if you feel like you have to hold information tight to your chest. I used to have people, we were one of the first people to put some of our stuff up on YouTube, and people would ask me like, why are you putting all this free training on YouTube? And the answer was genuinely back then, because I don't want to have to teach somebody how to write a check. Like they can go watch my video and write a check. I want to teach them why to write a check, how to put as many different fields on that check so we can report on it. I want to teach, push the boundaries. So, sharing information as much as possible. I think that also is something that helps us grow.
All right. And Diane?
Yeah. Gosh, I'd say I totally agree with what both Sherry and Marjorie have said. I'm going to add another word out there is persistence. You can't be in a situation where you try something and it doesn't work and you go, oh, well, it's more of a challenge when you run into issues, and you keep looking for new and better ways to do things. And with a continual focus on, as I mentioned a little earlier, on helping your clients be more effective, more profitable, better at what they're doing. I think it's a love of learning and a love of how do we bring that to our client base. And just it's a continual process. And you just have to be persistent and continue on that path, and get as much education in as you possibly can. Keep thinking about how you get to apply it.
All right. Well, I want to thank the three of you for being with us today. Gary, I don't know if you're still hanging around or if you left or what, but there he is. All
Told you
right.
I'd be here. I wouldn't leave you.
Well, I'll let you do the sign off then.
Yeah. All right. And then we do have one more poll question. If you're sitting through this and you're going, oh, I wish I had said, yes, I want to hear from Dex, or yes, I want to hear from Rewind. Just give you one more opportunity to say yes. It's just a joint poll here, just while we close out. There was one question in here that I did want to throw out there, and the question came from Katrina, and she said, what project management tools are being used to manage both installs and accounting/bookkeeping work? Anybody have insight on that?
We're using ClickUp in our practice.
ClickUp?
Yeah.
Okay. Diane or Marjorie, anything?
Well, we don't do bookkeeping.
Zero.
So installs, it kind of depends on whether somebody needs a remodel on their books or if they need to start clean. If they need to start clean, then we put balances in. Okay, so generally their prior books need some cleanup on an interim basis. So for us, it's generally relatively manual.
And we use Salesforce, we customize Salesforce. We tried to use several Salesforce apps out there, including some that were big in like the intact space for practice management, but it just didn't fit for both. But we've had to do a lot of customization to get that perfect, because they don't seem to do both very well.
Okay, here's one other question. It says time tracking with calendar sync is a big miss in the service industry. Other than custom integrations, is anyone using anything that does both?
I mean, field service management has calendar integration for the service industry. So there's that as an option, but I think what they're saying is into Outlook, perhaps. So
Not sure.
yeah, that's my guess. We have a lot of people who ask us to come and do custom integration between Google calendars and whatever that they're, right, because they use Google calendars or Outlook calendars. We have a lot of people that ask for that. And then that's why these have such great APIs, right? It's because it's hard.
Okay. Well, we will leave it at that. Marjorie, Diane, and Sherry Lee, thank you. Thank you all three for taking some time out of your schedule, sharing your knowledge and your wisdom with us. Murph, thanks for driving that conversation. And just for those who are still on the line with us, thank you for spending an hour or so with us. Hope everybody has a great week and a fantastic weekend. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.